As we step into 2026, the world's talking about the green transition not as a future goal, but as today's reality. The question is, how can this transformation create more and better jobs, foster inclusive growth, and avoid leaving anyone behind? To explore this, I'm happy to be joined by two guests, Roman Zinchenko, co-founder of Greencubator and a longtime advocate for green innovation and entrepreneurship, and my colleague Lasha Nakashidze, environment and climate change advisor in RECONOMY working for Helvetas. Roman, to start with you, we spoke back in 2021 about the future of green and sustainable economies after COVID-19. Looking at 2026 and beyond, what key shifts have you seen since then? What surprised you the most about how the green economy has evolved?
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me again. And I should say that the COVID times feels like a totally different life since then, and especially if you're based in Ukraine. Where the resiliency and the energy challenges and sustainability challenges due to the Russian invasions are very seriously intertwined. On the other hand, despite all the tough times and despite all the really stressful conditions, sometimes catastrophic conditions, I'm proud that the companies in the field of sustainability, circularity, and green economy are actively thriving. They are developing the segments, and we see it across many industries. And as we started with the energy field in Ukraine is forced to be moving into decentralized energy sources. And as we are saying, every business of Ukraine is currently energy business, because if you are not managing your energy profile, your energy consumption patterns, your backup solutions, there's a large risk you are out of business. Sometimes it's driving not very sustainable solutions, but sometimes it's driving hundreds of megawatts of sustainable energy sources deployed by many Ukrainian business leaders. On the other hand, what we see actually a huge number of companies in the field of circular material flows, including including cotton fiber processing, including coffee grounds processing, including circular construction, and many other things. So, since we met, we've added 2 more programs to our list of activities, and additional program we are currently running is GSIP2, Global Clean Tech Innovation Program 2.0 in Ukraine, initiated by UNIDO and funded by Jeff. And that's another terrific flow of entrepreneurs committed to sustainable transition. And through the climate innovation vouchers, through the climate launchpad, through small grant programs with Civic, through GSIP2, we see a lot of interest from Ukrainian entrepreneurs working to create the new products, and they are scaling to new markets. So for example, we have the Good Plastic company, which is turning the waste plastic into highly sought after interior materials for interiors, for packaging, for retail spaces, sold from LA to Tokyo. That's one of our champions. We have Catex, the company which is turning waste fabric into felt, into filters, into medical supplies, etc. We have the amazing company which is named Recover, which is taking the let's say used coffee grounds, and they just pivoted. When I was traveling, I was carrying a lot of Recover candles with me, so the beautifully produced candles made out, the auto shell made out of coffee, and organic wax inside. And now they pivoted. They're making tiles out of coffee, and they're making against the cups for the drinks. They're using single-use coffee to single-use cups, which is biodegradable, etc. So there is a lot of innovation happening here. We are happy that the capital markets are not abandoning this direction. We see some of the new trends, and that's important for us to help grow the new generation of consumers. But the energy challenge, I was explaining to some of my friends what means living under the energy crisis, and I believe colleagues in Georgia, they do have these memories, and overcoming this energy challenges was a big breakthrough for Georgia. But I was explaining what is living in Ukraine. So you wake up at 2 a.m. to boil the kettle and green some coffee. You put boiling water into thermos so you can have your morning coffee at 7 a.m. because there would be no light at 7 a.m. So luckily, we all deployed a lot of the energy backup system, etc. So there is a promise of energy system transformation towards sustainability, but to do that, we will need even bigger and larger batch of entrepreneurs. So we just had another demo day for one of our programs. We did a gathering called Clean Tech Sunday. And that was 15 amazing teams graduating from the advanced acceleration program we are running. But what I see to speed up the transformation of the economy into smarter, greener, and more sustainable, we should not triple, but I believe increase the number of batches we are doing annually by at least 6-7 times. And we are just one organization. So another actually interesting moment is growing role of women leadership in the sector. So, for example, from the recent programs we are running, we see at least 35% of the teams female-led, both on the management and the founding role. So that's another inspiring story. So, for Ukrainians, green transformation is not necessarily the mission choice. It's kind of survival choice. And it appears that many green solutions are turning out to be also more economically viable than the classical brown economy based solutions. So hopefully that would be a factor for creative leapfrogging and jumping into new era of innovations.
Thank you very much, Roman. From RECONOMY's perspective, Lasha, where do you see the strongest momentum for green and inclusive transformation in our countries? Are there particular sectors or market actors leading the way?
Well, I think Roman already did some job for me, because Roman already mentioned out some of those sectors where globally you have this trend, which are leading on the green transition or green transformation, if we call it as such. And obviously the top on the list, from my perspective, but also from various assessments, is the energy sector or energy transition, whether it's energy generation, distribution, storage systems, or now the raising electric mobility and electric vehicles. And it's also important, Sabin, from the economist perspective, to leverage this momentum, because also global energy transition is creating so-called green jobs. So if you look at the renewable energy sector, if you look at the energy efficiency sector, these are one of the leading sectors that create these new jobs. And also, surprisingly enough, the demand for the skills which are important for such jobs is outpacing the supply. So there is more need for such workers than currently the market can offer to the employers. So this is one of the biggest potentials for the countries in the Eastern Partnership or the Western Balkans. But also energy transition has a bit of a dark side if this is not addressed properly. And I've mentioned the just transition principle, which I think is especially important for some of the Western Balkan countries. Also, I think to some degree for Ukraine, and I'm specifically mentioning these coal-based regions where the coal mining is still a large sector employing people, but also the power plants that produce electricity based on coal. So obviously, in the green transition, these jobs will be phased out, and the states and communities need to address this challenge so that these people don't lose their livelihood. Another sector also where I think big potential and also increasing momentum in our countries, and Roman also mentioned this, is waste management and circularity in general. Because also if you look at where our countries stand now in waste management compared to best practices or benchmarks, I think I would say we are at the basic level. So there is a lot to do. There is a lot of progress to be made. And also in this sector, there is a lot of job opportunities and business opportunities because Roman mentioned, and if you...
I can hear you.
Electricity cut and Wi-Fi cut, so now I joined with my mobile.
Okay, so we are in the same energy reality.
Absolutely, it was so it coincided so much. So also the waste management and circularity, Roman provided some example. It offers a lot of opportunity for innovation and businesses because you have to find the usage for this secondary raw material. And also produce some new products from this secondary raw material. So waste management, circularity generally is, I think, one of the biggest momentum as well, like energy sector. And that's what we at RECONOMY are trying to leverage to support our target countries. Specifically for economy, also Sabin, I will shortly mention also to other sectors. It's specifically textile and fashion industry, because also countries in the Eastern Partnership and in the Western Balkans as well, they have a lot of potential to become a sustainable suppliers to the EU single market, or become a very important part of the general value chain of the sustainable fashion and design industry. And increasingly also from economist perspective, we are looking at the sustainable tourism because these countries have, I think, very important competitive advantages, especially adventure tourism and also rural and ecotourism. I would say muchly or largely untapped potential, whether it's sustainably sourced local food or gastronomic products and other cultural tourism. And that's where we also see a big potential. And from the economist perspective, we are trying to support countries not only develop in this direction, but also to cooperate regionally and position these regions together as an interesting destination for international markets.
And Lasha, when we talk about green jobs, what exactly do we mean today? How do you define a green and inclusive job in 2026?
That's, I would say that's a difficult question, Sabin. Of course, there are definitions of green job by International Labour Organization, United Nations Environmental Program, United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, and also some researchers have done some studies what is a green job. And I don't want to go into that kind of definitions because I don't think it will be very helpful for our audience. But I see currently two challenges with the green job definition. First is either they are too broad, and sometimes when you look at some definitions, with some tweaks, you could fit any job under the green job definition. This, of course, then increases the risk of greenwashing by some large corporations of their jobs as green ones. Or on the other side, they are too much technical, which is good for labor statistics, economic accounting, but not make any intuitive sense to, layperson to explain what a green job is. So basically, for me, I would say I have a more strict approach to defining green job. And for me, it's a job that directly either supports, enhances, or restores the environment, natural resources, or supports to conservation of ecosystems, ecosystem functions and natural resources. I would put green jobs in that category. But also, I think in that discussion, an important question is, why do we need green job definition at all, right? So what does it contribute to what kind of discourse or discussion? So I think there is still a lot of reflection from the international community, development cooperation to do on the definition of green jobs, and also about asking question, why do we need it more than, again, just economic accounting and measuring maybe also green transition degree. But I think a lot of clarity needs to be injected into this discussion.
Thank you very much, Lasha. Roman, you work closely with green entrepreneurs across Eastern Europe. What are some of the most promising business models or innovations you are seeing that combine sustainability with inclusion, not just in technology, but in mindset?
Well, I think tackling some of the global challenges is among the so it's not the business model, but it's seeing the planet as the market is not just the biggest inspiration for us, but that's also the major, let's say, survival and success factors. And in our reality, the majority of Ukrainian clean tech and green tech entrepreneurs succeeding in the smart, they're exporting, and some of these companies, they're serving customers in 45 plus countries. We should be honest here. The domestic sentiment in the Balkans and Eastern Partnership countries for sustainable solutions is not the highest. It's the regulations supporting the different type of sustainable solutions, sustainable products consumption. That's not the leading, and also many changes were shaped by consumer sentiments. But what we see a lot of amazing products serving the global markets where this consumer sentiment is higher, and people are actually creating green GDP in the economy, which is not the greenest, but they are helping to shift this economy, and they also helping to create the new segments. On the other hand, I actually love the approach once communicated by the founder of the Lower Carbon Capital, Chris Saka, if I remember correctly, that we are not just saying, okay, we brought for you some sustainable solution and pay us premium. No, we bring you green solution which is cheaper, which is more affordable. So since I'm coming from the country where where bottom line decision making is really important, and people are primarily focusing on the prices of certain solutions, what I see here is that in certain segments, the businesses offering green products domestically, they also very actively competing with different solutions, and they are able to win if they're able to convince the customer, okay, the total cost of operation, the OPEX, the lower OPEX for certain, for example, solar farming system, agrivoltaics, or solutions for pumping water using solar, the operational costs would be way lower, way more attractive when using like classical brown energy segment. So global expansion is point one, and point two being competitive in the tough conditions with the old school solutions and still beating them on the price for the domestic market is, from my perspective, are two key recipes for green SMEs, green businesses success.
And Roman, if we think about the next 10 years, what new alliances will matter most? Local green startups, large investors, regional policy actors, or community movements?
Well, in this component, I actually see 4 strategic pillars for innovations, because to make this transformation possible, we need innovations in 4 aspects. Aspect 1 is human capital. We are currently facing the serious deficit in terms of human capital due to the war, migration, mobilization, and other aspects. So human capital and speeding up the training, the human capital development for certain level of green jobs is the point 1. Second aspect is innovations in financing. So making the financial products that would streamline access to capital, access to credit, to implement and easily deploy different type of green solutions and make them like as common as getting a SIM card for your phone. That's another essential component. Thirdly, these are innovations in regulation, because honestly, many regulations, they are designed to the era which many regulations were designed for the era which is no longer here, and we should think about not just smart grids but mesh grids, not just construction using the certain type of reused material, but using this material as the basic source of construction material, for example, or using certain aspect of nature-based technologies, etc. So innovations in regulation is an important component. And finally, the 4th component is in the behavioral innovations, helping people adopt new consumption, new patterns. That could be the biggest driver for shifting the economies into more sustainable, more inclusive, and climate positive structures. So by leveraging innovations across human capital, financing, regulation, and behavior, we would be able to shift the economies which are greener, and also offering more supportive environment for new businesses and for national wealth building, because building wealth is the best strategy for overcoming poverty. And there is no better way of building wealth than entrepreneurship. So we just need to grace the generation of entrepreneurs that are building green GDP, and we can overcome many artificial crises the previous version of economy has created.
Thank you, Roman. Lasha, what new alliances will matter most?
Well, Sabin, it's of course a bit difficult to predict in the 10 years in this fast-paced world, but let's just play around with what we have, the trends or our interpretations. But I really like the way Roman categorized these 4 innovations, which are very important in order for this green transition to happen. So what I would like to start mentioning is that our current economic model is based on consumers, right? That's at least in our part of the world, that's the basis of the economy, because we want to increase the GDP. That's one of the main objectives for all politicians, and obviously consumerism is one of the sure ways to increase your GDP. This, of course, I'm very much simplifying now this whole process. So I think this behavior change, which Roman mentioned, is to me at the core of this transformation, which we are all eager to happen as soon as possible. And Roman also mentioned the financial innovation, and we had bilaterally spoken about this, Sabin, several times, that I feel the financial sector, banking sector lags behind in innovation, because we often hear at the large conferences, for example, representatives of banks, IFIs would say that there is no lack of capital, there is lack of good ideas and projects. That might be partially true, but then I think if your capital is not reaching the small and medium businesses or otherwise disadvantaged groups, you should ask yourself a question. Why is that happening, right? So what might be obstacles to those target groups that they do not have the easier access to this capital which they need the most? So I think the financial sector really has to do its job with coming up new solutions, new financial solutions for this transition. Human capital regulations are very important. So all these aspects that Roman mentioned leads us to the conclusion that there won't be a one single alliance or one single actor that will be crucial for this transition. And this is really where the states, private sector, communities or non-governmental organizations, and research and academia, of course, and education institutions have to come together and work hand in hand to make this transition happen. Because also in terms of innovation, if you look, this might, I know there are controversial ideas about this, but in many cases, the breakthrough innovations, if we speak about internet, GPS, touchscreens, etc., batteries, storage, this has not happened only due to private sector. Largely, the first risk taker was state. I mean, basically, it was the USA or China, etc. So, actually, innovation needs direct funding from state and taking this early risk on it, so that then private sector can commercialize this innovation and make it accessible to a large group of people. So to conclude, I think it's a really holistic approach, different actors working together. And I think that's the biggest challenge, how you make these different actors with different interests and agendas to unite and work together under the same agenda. And the final one, I think also to echo what Roman said, it is important to understand that green transition is not just a fancy idea. As Roman said, for example, in Ukraine, it's now imminent necessity. It's not that you have to choose, you need to do it, right? And I think we also need to educate people that it's necessity. Even if you take the energy transition, it's just not the fancy idea, let's save nature. But no, it's very much related to national security of our countries, and so on and so on. So I think a bit of education also on why green transition is important needs to be done by states in their countries.
Lasha, Roman, thank you very much for sharing your perspectives on what the next decade of green work might look like. The transition ahead is not just about technology, but also about people and the systems that connect them. Thank you.